Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. Today we're going to talk about something entirely different. It's about home buyers and what is happening with the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act, or RERA as it's known, and complaints that people have about not getting their houses after having paid for it. It's actually good news after a long time. So what I have to say after doing a bit of research is that RERA and the National Consumer Forum have finally come to the aid of hapless home buyers who've been suffering for innumerable years. So it's just 6 years since the RERA Act came into existence. This was in 2016. By the time all the regulations were notified, it was May 2017. And now, finally, you have a series of positive actions and orders, A, from RERA, and B, from the consumer courts. Remember, consumer courts, depending on the size of your problem, have to go from district level to state level to the national level, which is the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, NCDRC, it's called. It's the apex forum. And again, there is an appeal from there to the Supreme Court. But now there's a series of positive orders coming from NCDRC as well, which means that things are getting a little difficult for developers and builders who have got away with things with impunity. Regulatory action has begun to gather momentum, not necessarily because they think it's time to help people, but because there's a pile of adjudication cases. In case of Maharashtra's RERA Act, which is called MahaRERA, it governs what probably amounts to among the richest or most expensive real estate in the world. Okay, and here the number of adjudication cases are over 5,000. Obviously, they can't get over in 1 year, and things are getting a little difficult. Let's go back to basics. All of you who have ever bought a house would know what a murky area this is. It has thrived in black money and no regulations, people being cheated on things like carpet area, built up area, super built up, things that were finally sort of put together with a set of rules when RERA came into existence. And believe me, it was a hard, long fight before the RERA Act was passed, because the builder lobby, which includes a lot of politicians, are extremely powerful and had managed to delay it. They thrived in opaque rules, unaccounted money, and murky anti-customer practices. So by the time a comprehensive legislation was enacted, the drought in the system was about to explode. So I told you about 2017. Exactly a year later, you had a series of bankruptcies among very large developers. And then you had the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which is another brand new bankruptcy law. And all of this just triggered enormous chaos in the system. So people who lost money to companies which were listed and defaulted had to fight both the Bankruptcy Code as well as the fact that they couldn't come under RERA because RERA applied prospectively. So anything post 2017. And these guys were already registered by then. And some of you may have forgotten, unless you're a victim, but these were really well-known names splashed all over our newspapers every day. Unitech, Supertech, which, was actually brought down those stars. Then HDIL, Housing Development Infrastructure Limited, Diwan Housing, DHFL, JP Infratech, Amrapali, all these home buyers have been miserable and in court. They'd gone to the Supreme Court, some of them. In Maharashtra and Pune, there was DS Kulkarni. Everything got further compounded by the collapse of infrastructure leasing and financial services. Then Yes Bank, which was lending to all these builders. And things have been chaotic in 2018-19. Home buyers had to approach multiple forums. So like I said, some went to the Supreme Court, all the JP, Amrapali, Unitech people, because the Bankruptcy Act was threatening to leave them paying EMIs without any hope of getting their apartment, because the apartment was pledged to what is called a secured creditor and a bank. So the banks knew what was going on. The Supreme Court then offered a measure of protection. They're still not out of the woods. People then approached the consumer forums. Like I said, it's been climbing its way and things have finally come to the NCDRC. Hold that thought. I'm going to come back to it later. Meanwhile, like I said, the regulator is discovering that disclosure-based regime is not going to work. So you can have very tough set of rules and say builders and developers will do this, do that, and the other. They just don't bother if you don't regulate, supervise, inspect, and act against them. So RERA in Maharashtra, which was among the first to get started, has realized this and begun to take action. Like I said, they have 5,000 cases pending. They found developers flouting the act with impunity. So investigation and regulatory action has begun. I had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Ajay Mehta, who is the chairman of not only RERA, but All India Forum of Real Estate Regulatory Authorities. And he actually told me that the high number of adjudication proceedings cannot possibly be resolved in a year. And the better option was to go to the root cause of disputes. What he says is, when I hear adjudication cases, I don't look at it just as issuing an order, because I get a lot of feedback and then we investigate what happens. For instance, in RERA, he found that developers were asking for checks from home buyers in 2 or 3 different bank accounts. The law says that you will have one bank account per project. The money will remain there. It can't be taken out. But they had 2 or 3 different bank accounts, and only when there's a complaint, the regulator gets to know of it. Or they had a single account for multiple projects. It's complete violation of the law. Regulator also discovered that developers were submitting false certificates, not uploading quarterly progress reports. This was supposed to be the big protection for anyone who bought a house. They maintained multiple accounts for the same projects. The projects stalled due to disputes about blocked funds. This affected all stakeholders. And builders were also ignoring legally mandated completion deadlines without even bothering to seek an extension. So Mr. Mehta says that is why we decided to tighten our regulatory oversight, and our regulatory wing has now become bigger than the adjudication wing. And it is in fact true that since about June last year, a series of actions widely reported by the media, I sort of put them together for your benefit. June 22, RERA found 4,500 abandoned projects. The amount blocked was 78,000 crore. 60% of these were in the expensive Mumbai metropolitan region. Another 2,800 projects valued at 90,000 crores had lapsed in the previous 5 years. The numbers of lapsed projects may look small as compared to the number of new projects registered, which were as high as 34,400. But the regulator decided that the numbers are huge, the money blocked is huge. So a special vertical was created to mediate between stakeholders. RERA got the developers involved, set them up on committees and said, find a way, look at what is going on. They began to examine financial misdeeds. They began to issue show cause notices to builders who have failed to adhere to completion deadlines. And they also asked developers to join in the effort to revive. After all, everybody's affected. October 22, RERA suspended the registration of 60 developers. This is in the Kalyan Dombivli area, Mumbai suburb again. They registered cases against 27 for forging and fabricating registration documents to dupe homeowners. I mean, believe it or not, we thought all this had ended after the RERA Act, but not true. Unless there's investigation, Indians are great at cheating, fabricating. In February 2023, RERA issued notices to, hold your breath, 19,539 realty projects for failing to upload mandatory disclosures on its website. They include these quarterly reports, financial details, which have to be certified by chartered accountants, architect certificates. It also identified 313 specific housing projects for discrepancies in expenditure statements and completion status. March 2023, RERA decided that 1,781 projects who had violated the requirement of maintaining a separate designated bank account were going to be served show cause notices, and they have asked them for details of flats sold, money received, etc. Now you would wonder, who are they? What's the point in all these numbers if we don't know the names? Who are the cheats? Unfortunately, RERA is not willing to give us names as yet. They said, let's wait and watch. Let them answer these show cause notices. If we find that there's been deliberate mischief, there will be action taken. So until then, we know that there are big names involved. but we don't know who they are. Now, the Uttar Pradesh Real Estate Regulatory Authority has also been proactive. They've imposed fines of over 1 crore on 13 developers for non-compliance with its orders. In another action, 26 builders had their properties seized to recover 132 crores. This was paid by buyers who had not delivered homes that were already paid for. One set of actions by RERA. We don't know the names, but it's a beginning. And the numbers are big enough to make us feel a little hopeful that things are going to work and there is going to be follow-up action. Don't worry, we're going to be watching. We will bring you updates. Now let's come back to the National Consumer Forum, NCDRC. Again, a series of actions because things have finally reached there, which have all gone in favor of individual buyers. 31st Jan, Greater Noida Industrial Development Authority was asked to refund 40,000 to a consumer. 3rd February, SS Group was asked to refund 2.58 crore with 9% interest to 5 home buyers. 7th February, Magic Info Solutions was asked to refund money to a home buyer after deducting the basic sale price because he wanted his money back. 7th February this year, DLF Universal was ordered to pay 6% compensation for delay in handing over possession to 3 home buyers. 27th February, Lodha Crown Build Mart was asked to refund entire investment of home buyers with 9% interest. Mind you, this is just interest. There's no cost and compensation as yet. 3rd March, Mohali-based Country Colonizer was ordered to refund 87.26 lakh with 9% interest to a home buyer. 8th March, earlier this month, BPTP Limited and Countrywide Promoters was ordered to refund 77 lakhs with 9% interest. 9th March, Jaiprakash Associates was asked to refund 41.75 lakhs with 9%. I don't know whether this money is actually going to be paid or not because there are more complications here. 13th March, last week, Puri Constructions and Florentine Estates were ordered to refund money or hand over possession of flats in a complicated case where the developer had mortgaged those flats. All very heartening, but remember, in each of these cases, it was a long battle to come to this stage, and there is one more appeal if they are shameless enough to go to the Supreme Court, which means a further delay. The creation of a sector regulator was supposed to close all this. We are supposed to see a lot more disciplinary action, but to find that basic RERA rules are being flouted, basics, as much like a bank account, escrow account, if that is being flouted, we really need to see very strict action by our watchdog. We've been tracking this. Moneylife Foundation, which is our sister NGO, had prepared a comprehensive report on the efficacy of RERA from the consumer viewpoint. We did this in 2020. We had pointed to patchy adoption by state governments, especially in terms of notifying the rules, setting up appellate tribunals, legal interpretation of the act. We have now seen that basic rules itself are being flouted. I think some of you, especially if you're home buyers, may want to actually go and see our report, which is available on the Moneylife website. But all these heartening actions, like I said, doesn't mean you can relax. Please track this. Keep in touch with us because we will update you on actions that are happening. If you like what you've heard, do subscribe to us and forward this video blog. Thank you so much.